In the decade following World War II, Tallahassee was a segregated town. This included a seating arrangement of city bus passengers, white in the front and black in the back. In 1954 through 55, the Civil Rights Movement was protesting laws like that law. One example was Rosa Parks, who refused to give up her seat on the Montgomery City bus boycott. Two women took similar action in Tallahassee about 5 months later. On May 27, 1956, two African-American students named Wilhelmina Jakes and Gary Patterson from Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, or FAMU as most people call it, is a historically black university, and they boarded a local city bus. They took the only two open seats, which were in the white people's only section. When they were told they needed to move back to stand, or they could leave without their fare, they refused. The bus driver called the police because the two women would not get up from their seats. 3 police cars arrived, and Wilhelmina and Carrie were arrested. They were arrested on the charge of starting a riot. They were released on bond later that day. The next morning, Reverend C.K. Steele, a representative from NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, he visited the two women at their shared home and showed the NAACP's support for them. Later that day, at night, a cross was set on fire in front of their home, in their front yard. They hunted for safe housing on the FAMU campus for the night, and that is where news about the cross burning spread between the students. The students got together to plan what they would do in response. Eventually, they decided to refrain from taking public buses until the end of the semester. The boycott began on May 28th. After they were arrested, the student body president at FAMU, Broadus Harley, called for a meeting of the 2,300 students. During the meeting, they voted to boycott the buses, causing 2 temporary shutdowns of the bus company. The police arrested 26 more people in the protest. The word of the boycott eventually got to the African American community in Tallahassee, and a meeting on whether to join them or not. This meeting was held on the night of May 29th. There was a vote, and the vote was unopposed. The plan led to the founding of the ICC, Intercivic Council. The objectives of this initiative were to have equal access to seating for black people and white people, equal hire of African American bus drivers, and proper to African Americans while riding the bus. Reverend Daniel B. Speed joined the Reverend C.K. Steele as leader of the boycott. Together they set specific guidelines for a protest to be completely peaceful and not violent. During the boycott, the African Americans of Tallahassee used carpools as transportation to get to and from work, and also for other necessary transport. 21 ICC members were convicted on charges of overseeing an illegal transportation system for arranging the carpools without a franchise. Steele was the pastor at the Bethel Baptist Church. He formed the ICC to manage the boycott and the coordination behind it. Most of the people protesting did not own cars, so they had to find another way to get to work while the buses were being boycotted. Supports offered to loan their cars and share rides, also known as a carpool. This is when the 21 ICC members were convicted for organizing the carpools. The court fined the ICC $11,000. City's transit company was forced to shut down all the buses for a month. They did this because they were losing money from the boycott. They offered to hire African American bus drivers on the FAMU and Frenchtown routes. These two routes ran through black neighborhoods in the town. Meanwhile, in response to the Montgomery bus boycott, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Alabama's segregated bus laws were unconstitutional. Soon, the court ordered Alabama to desegregate public buses. So would this law be enforced in Florida? The ICC leaders in Tallahassee chose to test whether or not the Supreme Court decision would be applied in Florida. On December 24, 1956, civil rights leaders sat down in bus seats reserved for white people. There were several people on several buses. Steele, Reverend A.C. Red, and Reverend H. McNeil Harris all rode in several buses close to the front. Reverend J. Meta Rollins and Reverend D. B.
also defied the seating convention on several other buses that day. There were larger front ride demonstrations planned for December 27th that were called off. About 200 armed whites had threatened to confront the integrationists, which were people interested in not having segregation. The whites gathered near the Park Avenue, Monroe Street bus transfer point. Governor Leroy Collins was under pressure from both sides. He had suspended bus service on January 1st in Tallahassee. The city repealed the segregated seating rule on January 7th, 1957. Then came the assigned seating rule. The new rule tried to maintain segregated seating and comply with the Supreme Court decision. By the summer of 1957, city buses were finally integrated. A telegram to the governor states, during the past few days, a number of Negro citizens have been taken from their homes to the Tallahassee Police Department for questioning, among other things, whether they plan to ride city buses. As you may know, for a number of years, the Negro citizens of Tallahassee have been the most loyal bus riders. Last year, they contributed to more than 60% of the local bus company's income. This is telling us that black people were the best customers and riders for the bus company. And later in the telegram, it states, during 1955, the Negro citizens of Tallahassee spent over $100,000 with the bus company. So this is showing that the black people who were protesting in 1956 had actually spent a lot of money on the bus company in the year prior, earning them money, a lot of money. Another telegram from C.K. Steele to Governor Leroy Collins states, Dear Governor Collins, as you may know, a number of citizens in Tallahassee, the capital city of Florida, are being subjected to various types of prosecutions by the city. We have not been able to discover any white citizens who have been subjected to such prosecutions. We are thus led to the conclusion that these prosecutions stem mainly from the refusal of Negro citizens to continue to ride the privately owned bus system presented under intolerable conditions. So, in summary, this shows that Steele suspects that the only reason that these black citizens are being prosecuted is because they are boycotting the bus company. Steele also says later in the telegram that they respectfully urge that the governor would use his full power of his office to investigate the situation that was in Tallahassee to prevent injustices like those from happening in the future, but to a larger extent of population who also had interest in growing a well-being of the capital city, Tallahassee, and also Florida in whole. The population of Tallahassee at the time was only 38,000, and 1/3 of the population was black. This event is an example of protesting the government peacefully, a very important responsibility, allowing us to voice our opinions on rules or laws. There are many rights protected by this too. One of these rights is transportation rights. Transportation rights give citizens equal protection under the law, including the right to ride public transportation. Another right protected by the government is civil rights. Civil rights are personal rights guaranteed and protected by the U.S. Constitution and federal laws enacted by Congress.